ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्दे अहं श्रीगुरून् श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवंश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं साधुदूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत श्री राधाकांत नमस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी श्री राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे हरे। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिनेति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारणे होल वर्ल्ड तारणे शिल प्रभुपाद की जय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयत। नष्टप्रायेष्व भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवत्या उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। Hare Krishna. So we'll be starting with chapter 5 today, and the chapter 5 is the meeting of Narad and Vasudev. So okay, with it, would you be reading the first one or two paragraphs?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm already sharing my screen. Chapter 5.
Not visible.
It's not visible.
Actually, it's showing this old screen.
Oh, it's showing old slide. Sorry. Let me share again. Is it visible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Although, chapter 5, the meeting of Nanda and Vasudeva. Although Krishna was the real son of Vasudeva and Devaki, because Kamsa's at atrocious activities, Vasudeva could not enjoy the birth ceremony of his son. But Nand Maharaj, the foster father, Maji, what is foster father? Celebrated the birth ceremony of Krishna very joyful. The next day it was declared that a male child had been born to Yashoda. According to Vedic custom, Nanda Maharaj called for learned astrologers and Brahmanas to perform the birth ceremony. After the birth of a child, the astrologers calculated the moments of the birth and make a horoscope of the child's future life. Before the birth ceremony, the family members take baths, clean themselves, and decorate themselves with ornaments and nice garments. And they come before the child and the astrologer to hear the future of the child. Nand Maharaj and other members of the family dressed and sat down in front of the birthplace. All the Brahmanas who were assembled there on this occasion chanted auspicious mantras. According to the rituals, while astrologers perform the birth ceremonies, all the demigods are also worshipped. On this occasion, as well as the forefathers of family. Nanda Maharaj distributed to Brahmanas 200,000 cows, which were well decorated and clothed and ornaments. He gave the Brahmanas not only clouds and charities, but also hills of grains decorated with ornaments and golden bordered cloth. So Mataji, although जब कृष्णा देवकी और वासुदेव के पुत्र थे, वहां पे वो देवकी और वासुदेव उनकी सेलिब्रेशन नहीं कर पाए क्योंकि कंस उसको मारने के लिए इतना उत्सुक था और उनको चेंज करना पड़ा. लेकिन जो उनके फोर फादर थे नंद महाराज और यशोदा मैया, वो अच्छे से उनको सेलिब्रेट कर पाए. तो जब वो फिर जब सुबह सबको पता चल गया कि नंद महाराज के घर एक छोटा सा बेबी पैदा हुआ है, तो फिर वहां पे एस्ट्रोलॉजर्स को बुलाया गया और ब्राह्मणास को बुलाया गया. और एस्ट्रोलॉजी करने से पहले, जो उसका फ्यूचर चेक करने से पहले, सबको क्लीन होना चाहिए, ऑर्नामेंट्स पहनने चाहिए, अच्छे अच्छे गारमेंट्स पहनने चाहिए. और फिर जो ब्राह्मणास थे और एस्ट्रोलॉजर्स थे वो आए. तो जो एस्ट्रोलॉजर्स थे, जब वो अपने वो रिचुअल्स वो देख रहे थे कि इनका फ्यूचर क्या है, जो सारे वहाँ के ब्राह्मणास थे वो वहाँ पे ऑस्पिशियस मंत्रास कर रहे थे. रिचुअल्स के हिसाब से जब जो एस्ट्रोलॉजर्स होते हैं, जब वो बर्थ सेरेमनी वो कर रहे होते हैं, प्रोग्रेस कर रहे होते हैं, उसको स्टार्ट कर रहे होते हैं, सो सारे डेमिगॉड्स वर्शिप्ड होते हैं. और उनके जो फोर फादर थे नंद महाराज, और उनके जो फोर फादर्स है वो भी वर्शिप होते हैं. जो नंद महाराज थे उन्होंने ब्राह्मणास को बहुत सारी काउस गिफ्ट करी, बहुत सारे ग्रेन्स गिफ्ट करे, और काउस पे बहुत अच्छे अच्छे ऑर्नामेंट्स भी थे, क्लोथ्स भी थे. In the material world, we possess riches and wealthy in many ways, but sometimes not in very honest. Before the birth, माची तो पढ़ लिया. In the material world, we possess riches and wealth in many ways, but sometimes not in very honest and pious ways, because that is in the nature of accumulating wealth. According to the Vedic injunctions, therefore, one should purify such wealth by giving cows and gold in charities to Brahmana. A newborn child is also purified by gifts of grain in charity to the Brahmanas. In this material world, it is so to be understood that we are always living in the contaminated state. We therefore have to purify the duration of our life, our possession of wealth, and ourselves. We can purify our duration of life by taking a daily bath and cleaning the body inside and outside, and accepting the 10 kinds of purification process by austerity, by worshipping the Lord, and by distributing charity. We can purify the possession of wealth. We can purify ourselves by studying the Vedas in order to understand the absolute truth and achieve the self-realization. It is therefore stated in the Vedic literature that by birth everyone is born as Shudra, that by accepting the purification process one becomes twice born, that by studying the Vedas one becomes Vipra, which is the preliminary qualification of all for one for becoming a Brahmana, and that when one perfectly understands the absolute truth, he is a Brahmana. And when the Brahmana reaches further perfection, he becomes a Vaishnava or a devotee.
So here, Srila Prabhupada explains that by birth, everyone is a Shudra. And when we accept purification processes, we become twice born. When we study the Vedas, we become a Vipra. And so there is actually here a difference between Vipra and Brahmana. Generally, we used to think that Vipra means Brahmana only. And then it says, which being a Vipra is a primary qualification of becoming a Brahmana. So when one perfectly understands the absolute truth, he becomes a Brahmana. And then Srila Prabhupada says that the Brahmana reaches further perfection by becoming a Vaishnava. So by this, we can See, the Srila Prabhupada says that a Vaishnava or a devotee is at the topmost level. Okay. Thank you with it, Prabhuji. Sadhya Mataji, Nupur Mataji, would you be reading the next paragraph?
Hare
Like to read the
Krishna.
next few
Yes,
paragraphs
I
here.
can read it.
Yeah, thank you,
In
Mataji.
Krishna's birth ceremony, all the assembled Brahmanas began to chant different kinds of Vedic mantras to invoke all good fortune for the child. There are different kinds of chanting known as Sutta, Magadha, Vandija, and Virudhavali. Along with this chanting of mantras and songs, bugles and kettle drums are sounded outside the house. On this occasion, the joyous vibrations could be heard in all the pasturing grounds and all the houses. Within and outside of the houses, there were a variety of artistic paintings done in rice pearl, and scented water was sprinkled everywhere, even on the roads and the streets. Ceilings and roofs were decorated with different kinds of flags, festoons, and green leaves. The gates were made of green leaves and flowers. All the cows, bulls, and calves were smeared with a mixture of oil and turmeric and painted with minerals like red oxide, yellow clay, and manganese. They wore garlands of peacock feathers and were covered with nice colored cloths and good necklaces. When all the ecstatic cowherd men heard that Nanda Maharaj, the father of Krishna, was celebrating the birth ceremony of his son, they became spontaneously joyful. They dressed themselves with very costly garments and ornamented their bodies with different kinds of earrings and necklaces and wore great turbans on their heads. After dressing themselves in this gorgeous way, they took various kinds of presentations and thus they approached the house of Nand Maharaj. As soon as they heard that Mother Yashoda had given birth to a child, all the cowherd women became overwhelmed with joy, and they also dressed themselves with various kinds of costly garments and ornaments and smeared scented cosmetics on their bodies. As the dust on the lotus flower exhibits the exquisite beauty of the flower, all the gopis, cowherd women, applied the dust of kumkum on their lotus like faces. These beautiful gopis took their different presentations and very soon reached the house of Maharaj Nand. Overburdened with their heavy hips and swollen breasts, the gopis could not proceed very quickly towards the house of Nand Maharaj, but out of ecstatic love for Krishna, they proceeded as quickly as possible. Their ears were decorated with pearl rings, their necks were decorated with jeweled lockets, their lips and eyes were decorated with different kinds of lipstick and ointment, and their hands were decorated with nice golden bangles. As they were hastily passing over the stone road, the flower garlands which were decorating their bodies fell to the ground, and it appeared that a shower of flowers was falling from the sky. From the movement of the different kinds of ornaments on their bodies, they were looking still more beautiful. In this way, they all reached the house of Nand Yashoda and they blessed the child, dear child, you live long just to protect us. While they were blessing child Krishna in this way, they offered a mixture of turmeric powder, oil, yogurt, milk, and water. They sprinkled this mixture not only on the body of child Krishna, but on all other persons who were present there. Also, on that occasion, auspicious occasion, there were different bands of expert musicians playing. Very nice description of how uh, everybody got ready and decorated their bodies with kumkum and nice dresses and jewelry, etc. And they were running in excitement towards the house of Maharaj uh, Nand and Yashoda Maharani. And the flowers, the garlands which they had on their bodies, those fell to the ground, and it appeared on this auspicious occasion as these were the beautiful flowers were falling from the sky. And then they all blessed Lord Krishna when they reached home, and they offered a mixture of turmeric powder, oil, yogurt, milk, and water, etc. On Lord Krishna. and they prayed that he lives long to bless them always in life.
Yes.
When
Thank you.
the cowherd, can I read the next two
Yes,
also?
yes, Madhuri. Yes, yes, please.
When the
Yes.
cowherd men saw the pastimes of the cowherd women, they became very joyful, and in response, they also began to throw yogurt, milk, clarified butter, and water upon the bodies of the gopis. Then both parties began to throw butter on each other's bodies. Nand Maharaj was also very happy to see the pastimes of cowherd men and women, and he became very liberal in giving charity to the different singers who were assembled there. Some singers were reciting great verses from the Upanishads and Purans. Some were glorifying the family ancestors, and some were singing very sweet songs. There were also many learned Brahmanas present, and Nand Maharaj, being very satisfied on this occasion, gave them different kinds of garments, ornaments, and cows in charity. It is very important to note in this connection how wealthy the inhabitants of Vrindavan were simply by raising cows. All the cowherd men belonged to the Vaishya community, and their business was to protect the cows and cultivate crops. By their dress and ornaments and by their behavior, it appears that although they were in small village, they were still rich in material possessions. They possessed such an abundance of various kinds of milk products that they were throwing butter lavishly on each other's bodies without restriction. Their wealth was in milk, yogurt, clarified butter, and many other milk products. And by trading their agricultural products, they were rich in various kinds of jewelry, ornaments, and costly garments. Not only did they possess all these things, but they could give them away in charity lavishly, as did Nand Maharaj. So, in these two paragraphs, it is described how the residents of the place where Lord Krishna was born, they all were like leading their life lavishly just for by trading in agricultural products, and they were possessing jewelry, ornaments, and costly garments because of all this. And moreover, in the first paragraph, it is described how the like the what do you call it?
The cowherd boys and women.
Uh, all those who were part of this ceremony,
Hmm.
they were blessing the family ancestors and everybody the ones belonged to Nand Maharaj, and like many things were given in charity, like garments, ornaments, and cows, etc. That's all.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you,
Hare
Madhuri.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So I'll read the next one. The Nand Maharaj, thus Nand Maharaj, the foster father of Lord Krishna, began to satisfy the desire of all the men assembled there. He respectfully received them and gave them in charity whatever they desired. The learned Brahman, who had no other source of income, were completely dependent on the Vaishyas community for their maintenance, and they received gifts on such festive occasion as birthday and marriage. When Nand Maharaj was worshipping Lord Vishnu on this occasion and was trying to satisfy all the people there, his only desire was that the newborn child Krishna would be happy. Nand Maharaj had no knowledge that this child was the origin of Vishnu. He was praying to Lord Vishnu to protect him. Rohini Devi, the mother of Balram, was most fortunate wife of Vasudev. She was away from her husband, yet just to congratulate Nanda Maharaj, Maharaj Nanda, on the occasion of the birth ceremony of his son Krishna, she dressed herself very nicely. Wearing a garland, a necklace, other bodily ornaments, she appeared on the scene and moved hither and thither. According to the Vedic system, a woman whose husband is not at home does not dress herself very nicely. But although Rohini husband was away, she still dressed herself very nicely for the occasion. From the opulence of the birth ceremony of Krishna, it is very clear that that time Vrindavan was rich in every aspect. Because Lord Krishna took birth in the house of Nand Maharaj, Mother Yashoda, the goddess of fortune was obliged to manifest her opulence in Vrindavan. It appeared that Vrindavan had already become a site for pastimes of the goddess of fortune. After the birth ceremony, Nanda Maharaj decided to go to Mathura to pay annual taxes to the government of Kansa. Before leaving, he called for the able cowherd men of the village and asked them to take care of Vrindavan in his absence. When Nand Maharaj arrived in Mathura, Vasudev got the news and was very eager to congratulate his friend. He immediately went to the place where Nand Maharaj was staying. When Nanda saw Vasudev, he felt he had regained his life. Nanda, overwhelmed with joy, immediately stood up and embraced Vasudev. Vasudev was received very warmly and offered a nice place to sit. Anxiously about Anxious about his two sons, which is Krishna and Balram, who had been put under the protection of Nanda without Nanda's knowledge, Vasudev inquired about them with great anxiety. Both Balram and Krishna were the sons of Vasudev. Balram was transferred from the to the womb of Rohini, Vasudev's own wife, but Rohini was kept under the protection of Nanda Maharaj. Krishna was personally delivered to Yashoda in exchange for her daughter. Nand Maharaj knew that Balram was the son of Vasudev, but he did not know that Krishna was also Vasudev's son. Vasudev, of course, was aware of the fact and inquired very eagerly about both Krishna and Balram. Uh, So here we can see that Srila Prabhupada explains that how how opulent Vrindavan was. And Srila Prabhupada says that just because Krishna, who's the cause of all causes, who's the supreme personality of Godhead, who's the supreme personality of Godhead, he appeared in Vrindavan. Therefore, the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi Devi, had to present all her opulence in Vrindavan, and it was already seen that the Vrindavan became so opulent. Then the time came when Nand Maharaj had to go to Mathura to pay his taxes, and Vasudev got to know about it. So Vasudev was very eager to meet Nand Maharaj to know about the welfare of both the sons, Balram and Krishna and Balram. Right? Okay. So Nupur Mataji, do you want to read the next one? Oh, sorry. Would you be able to read the next one? Uh, Hare Krishna, Nupur Mataji or Sadhya Mataji?
Hare Krishna Mataji. Mataji, I will read after 10 minutes.
Sure, sure. Okay.
Can I read the next one?
Yes, Sadhya Mataji.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Vasudeva then addressed Nanda, my dear brother, you were old and very anxious to beget a son, and you had none. Now, by the grace of the Lord, you are fortunate to have a very nice son. I think that this incident is very auspicious for you, dear friend. I was imprisoned by Kamsa and now I am released. Therefore, this is another birth for me. I have no hope of seeing you again, but by God's grace, I can see you. In this way, Vasudeva indirectly expressed his anxiety about Krishna. Krishna was sent incognito to the bed of Mother Yashoda, and after Nanda very pompously celebrated Krishna's birth ceremony, he went to Mathura. So Vasudeva was very much pleased and said, "This is a new birth for me." He never expected that Krishna would live because all his other sons had been killed by Kamsa. Vasudeva continued, my dear friend, it is very difficult for us to live together. Although we have our family and relatives, sons and daughters, by nature's way we are generally separated from one another. The reason for this is that every living entity appears on this earth under different pressures of fruitive activities. Although they assemble together, there is no certainty of their remaining together for a long time. According to one's fruitive activities, one has to act differently and thereby be separated. For example, many plants and creepers are floating on the waves of the ocean. Sometimes they come together and sometimes they separate forever. One plant goes one way and the another plant goes another way. Similarly, our family assembly may be very nice and we are living together, but after some time, in the course of the waves of time, we are separated. The purport of this expression by Vasudeva is this: although he had 8 sons born in the womb of Devaki, Unfortunately, they all have gone. He could not even keep his son Krishna with him. Vasudeva was feeling his separation, but he could not express the real fact. Please tell me about the welfare of Vrindavan, he said. You have many animals. Are they happy? Are they getting sufficient grass and water? Please also let me know whether the place where you are now living is undisturbed and peaceful. This inquiry was made by Vasudeva because he was very anxious about Krishna's safety. He knew that Kamsa and his followers were trying to kill Krishna by sending various kinds of demons. They had already resolved that all children born within 10 days of the birthday of Krishna should be killed. Because Vasudeva was so anxious about Krishna, he inquired about the safety of his residents. He also inquired about Balram and his mother Rohini, who were entrusted to the care of Nand Maharaj. Vasudeva also reminded Nand Maharaj that Balram did not know his real father. He knows you as his father. And now you have another child, Krishna. And I think you are taking very nice care of both of them. It is also significant that Vasudeva inquired about the welfare of Nand Maharaj's animals. The animals, and especially the cows, were protected exactly in the manner of one's children. Vasudeva was a Kshatriya and Nand Maharaj was a Vaishya. It is the duty of the Kshatriyas to give protection to the citizens, and it is the duty of the Vaishyas to give protection to the cows. The cows are as important as the citizens. Just as the human citizens should be given all kinds of protection, so the cows also should be given full protection. Vasudeva continued to say that the maintenance of religious principles, economic development, and the satisfactory execution of meeting the demands of the census depend on cooperation among relatives, nations, and all humanity. Therefore, it is everyone's duty to see that his fellow citizens and the cows are not put into difficulty. One should see to the peace and comfort of his fellow men and the animals. The development of religious principles, economic development, and sense gratification can then be achieved without difficulty. Vasudeva expressed his sorrow due to not being able to give protection to his own sons born of Devaki. He was thinking that religious principles. Just a second, please. My battery is about to die. I have to. Just a
Yes,
second,
yes.
just a second,
Sure, sure,
please.
sure, Mother. Sure, sure.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm so sorry.
No, no, no. That's not.
Vasudeva expressed his sorrow due to not being able to give protection to his own sons born of Devaki. He was thinking that religious principles, economic development, and the satisfaction of his senses were therefore all lost. Upon hearing this, Nand Maharaj replied, My dear Vasudeva, I know that you are very much aggrieved because the cruel King Kansa has killed all your sons born of Devaki. Although the last child was a daughter, Kansa could not kill her, and she has entered into the celestial planets. My dear friend, do not be aggrieved. We are all being controlled by our past unseen activities. Everyone is subjected to his past deeds, and one who is conversant with the philosophy of karma and its reaction is a man in knowledge. Such a person will not be aggrieved at any incident, happy or miserable. Vasudeva then replied, My dear Nanda, if you have already paid the government taxes, then return soon to your place because I think that there may be some disturbance in Gokula. After the friendly conversation between Nand Maharaj and Vasudeva, Vasudeva returned to his home. Nand Maharaj and the other cowherd men who had come to Mathura to pay their taxes also returned home. Thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta purport of the fifth chapter of Krishna, the meeting of Nand Maharaj and Vasudeva. So here it is like described how both the friends are talking about how a person's life is controlled by the past deeds, the philosophy of karma, etc. But somehow, what I feel is that His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada wants to say here the hidden truth is that this is all a leela
Yes.
where Lord Krishna is born, and to save him and to keep Kansa in what you call it, bit of confusion. Like
Till the
so,
right
this
time
is
comes.
under all the influence of Leela that is going on,
Yes.
and rest. It's all very simple.
Yes, yes, Madhuri. So few things that I just wanted to highlight that mentioned when he inquired from Nanda Maharaj, he also inquired about the animals. So it is Srila Prabhupada says that the cow should also be given food protection. Basically, just like in a city or in a kingdom, the king should give protection to animals along with humans. And then
Right.
also in one of the lines, it says that Vasudev also reminded Nand Maharaj that Balram did not know his real father. So this means that until Balram went to Mathura, even he did not knew that his real father was Vasudev. Right.
Right.
Right. And one more thing, like Vasudev like explains that so Nanda Maharaj explains to Vasudev like about karma, like you mentioned, Mataji. Then he also says that a man in knowledge is not aggrieved or the happiness and distress. So with the moment you were reading this, suddenly I could remember that in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Matra Sparshasta Kaunteya, Shitosna Sukha Dukkha. That is, that this happiness and distress, they're temporary and they're just like the winter and summer season. And a dheer व्यक्ति, person should not be disturbed by these hap- temporary happiness and
Yes, and the
distress.
intelligent person knows it deeply,
Yes.
why and how this is happening, and he should not get affected by the sorrow or by the happiness. So
Yes.
it is all, destiny that's going on, and the intelligent ones just watch it and they are not affected by
Yes. Yes.
the sorrow or the
Sorry.
happiness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, when I read this, I realized that when actually people of Dwapar Yug, they used to talk, they used to talk so much in depth. They used to have such in depth conversation. Nowadays when we face the distress and difficulty, we always first instant we blame others, uski wajah se hua, and so we have that mentality,
We should
blaming
not
mentality.
blame
Yes,
others. Yes,
yes,
that is
yes.
there. We should
But
not blame others.
yeah, being in Kalyug, that's the first thing we try to find out who is the reason of our distress. But the fact is that we ourselves are the reason of our distress. It is
We,
our
yeah,
karma,
we get the result of our own karma.
own karma. Yes. So nobody else causes distress or happiness for us. It is our own selves, our own karma, which causes
Yes. And
distress.
I read astrology books also. There also it is mentioned that if we talk behind anybody's back,
Mm.
then our punya goes to
Goes,
his,
yes,
and his pap karma comes, some
to
portion, some degree
ha,
of that comes to us.
yes, yes.
So we should
And
always think and speak good.
yes, that is what Nishta Mataji, her Grace Nishta Mataji always says, that we should never speak behind anybody's back. कभी तो कहते वैष्णव अपराध नहीं करना चाहिए कभी भी, because we don't know who is a Vaishnava, and when we
Right.
do that, we actually take um, their bad karmas, and our punyas go to them.
Yes, that is there. That is
So
there.
actually, even these small conversation, basically, I feel very happy here just listening to these small conversations also between Nand Maharaj and Vasudev, saying that how elevated were they, even that age. And we are so, in the age of Kali Yuga, we are so downgraded that we only tend to do Gramin Katha and you know, talk
Yes, they are
pinpointing,
all
finger pointing.
part of this transcendental realm,
Yes,
and they all are there. In their previous births, they all were Lord's exalted devotees, only those who are made part of the Leela.
yes, 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 yes. And like we saw earlier that how Vasudev and Devki, they were Aditi and Kashyap also, and in the previous birth also they were the parents of the Lord. And this is the
Right,
third birth when they become the parent of the Lord. Yes,
right.
right. So very nice. Actually, reading Srila Prabhupada books actually brings a lot of joy in the heart.
That is there. Uh, Otherwise, one gets disturbed if one is not Krishna conscious. And if
Yes,
you're
Mataji,
Krishna conscious,
yes.
then you don't get disturbed at all.
Ha,
You are
yes.
very peaceful inside and out,
Mm.
and people around, they are always confused. My children say, Mama, you used to, blast before you were Casey,
Yes,
Krishna conscious
yes,
now.
yes.
So it
So
has
much of
brought a
change.
drastic change in me.
Yes, yes, Mataji,
I
that's a
don't get
fact.
affected by this thing. It is
Yes,
all prarabdh, once prarabdh and sanchit karmas that we are getting the result of everything.
yes, yes. It's all Krishna desire. Like Nishta Mataji also says two things. It's Hari Icha and Hari Kripa. If we get what we
Right.
want, it's Hari Kripa. If we don't get what we want, then it's Hari Icha. Yes, Vidit Prabhuji. So when we see everything is as Krishna's desire, then we accept it easily.
Very true. And you are in Krishna conscious for how long?
Mataji, 6 years.
Oh, you and Vidit Prabhu, both of you are very lucky.
Thank you,
I was
Mataji.
45 when I started visiting Spawn.
Mataji, me too. I was like 30, 35.
Very lucky, very fortunate.
Thank you, Mataji.
Otherwise,
all
like,
all mercy of the devotees. Otherwise, if devotees had not given